In fact, some so-called subvoid nirvana artifacts are not truly subvoid nirvana at all. They still belong to the void category, but they are slightly more exceptional and are thus referred to as subvoid nirvana. In reality, this is just a name driven by vanity. For ordinary shattered nirvana old monsters, void-level artifacts already represent the pinnacle. To obtain such an artifact, they would go to any lengths. However, those who have reached the late-stage perfect shattered nirvana find void-level artifacts to be precious. But for cultivators of their caliber, whether by plundering or searching, they would never lack such artifacts. In fact, cultivators at this stage often don't even consider ordinary artifacts, for they seek transcendence beyond the second step of cultivation, striving for the legendary third step. However, the third step is elusive, and the path forward remains unclear. All they can do is quietly await the inevitable descent of the 5 decays of heaven and man, slowly waiting for their demise in the end, like the sands of time sifting away. For those ancient monsters, who are nearly immortal, the pursuit of the third step is no longer about power and cultivation but about survival. Only by reaching the third step can they counter the 5 decays of heaven and man. Otherwise, death is the only fate awaiting them. At this time, in the lower realms of the Wind Domain, a cultivator accidentally arrived at the Alliance Star Domain. This person had not reached the third step but managed to survive the 5 decays of heaven and man, even advancing to the 4th decay. The 5 decays of heaven and man is a calamity that all shattered nirvana cultivators must face. With each decay, their cultivation and strength will increase by many folds. However, the difficulty is immense. If one fails, both their form and spirit will be destroyed. This person's ability to survive to the 4th decay was due to a certain artifact. This artifact would later be known as the Nirvana Ultimate Treasure. After being researched, it was discovered that this artifact could be traced back to ancient times, although these types of treasures are extremely rare today. Despite this, the shattered Nirvana old monsters discovered objects and ancient relics that surpassed void-level artifacts but were still inferior to Nirvana-level treasures. This is what is known as subvoid Nirvana. Although subvoid Nirvana artifacts are not as rare as true Nirvana-level ones, they are still quite scarce, with almost all of them being obtained by cultivators who have reached the late-stage perfect shattered Nirvana. One of the requirements for joining the Alliance Elder Council is to possess a subvoid Nirvana treasure. The power of this treasure is immense, and it can also assist cultivators in surviving the 5 decays of heaven and man. Subvoid Nirvana artifacts, like others, are divided into different grades, though the classification is vague, usually separated into lower, middle, upper, and perfect tiers. After all, these treasures are relics left by ancient ancestors, and modern cultivators have little understanding of their crafting methods, let alone detailed classifications. It can absorb the killing intent of cultivators, create illusory images, and unleash such power. The treasure in Wang Lin's hands is at least an upper-tier subvoid Nirvana artifact. It might even be a perfect subvoid Nirvana artifact. The rustic beauty gasped, her eyes filled with deep weariness. As the three of them each had their own intentions, the roar outside the grand hall erupted once again. This time, it was much closer. Without hesitation, the man in black leaped into the air, heading straight for the two statues. Mimicking Wang Lin, he prepared to leave. Both Void Master and the rustic beauty followed suit. At this moment, in the second layer of the Immortal Emperor's cave, near the central location, a flash of violet light appeared, and Wang Lin stepped out from within a pavilion. A shattered Nirvana cultivator. It's so difficult to kill him. Even though Void Master is heavily injured, he's still not dead. With that rustic beauty around, and now... After Wang Lin appeared, he immediately coughed up blood, his face showing rare exhaustion. However, this Iron Sword artifact. It exceeds my expectations. The power it possesses is unimaginable. If I could gather all 5 sword sheaths for the Iron Sword and use them simultaneously, Wang Lin sucked in a breath, shaking his head. If he tried to use them all together, he might be instantly turned into a human rod. He placed the Iron Sword back into its sheath and stowed it into his storage pouch, taking some pills and swallowing them before dashing forward with gritted teeth. His previous attack, fueled by his heavy injuries, had intimidated the man in black and the rustic beauty. Otherwise, if they had continued their assault, Wang Lin would have been certain to perish. At this moment, there was no time for him to sit cross-legged and heal. He needed to use his knowledge of the Immortal Emperor's cave map to quickly create distance between him and them. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lin navigated through the various restrictions in the second layer of the Immortal Emperor's cave. Soon, he arrived at the locations of several restriction eyes as marked on the map. Upon inspection, Wang Lin immediately confirmed his previous guess. Someone had opened a restriction eye ahead of him and entered an unknown layer. Dragging his exhausted body, he headed straight for the mist-filled area at the center of the second layer. The layout of the first 6 layers of the Immortal Emperor's cave was almost identical, so despite his slowed pace, Wang Lin quickly reached the central area of the second layer, where the entrance to the third layer awaited. At this moment, the man in black, the rustic beauty, and the heavily injured Void Master also arrived on the second layer. Seriously wounded, the Void Master was no longer as domineering as he had been on the first layer. Instead of forcefully breaking through the restrictions, he now moved cautiously and slowly forward. This gave Wang Lin ample time. Inside the grand hall of the second layer, there were no statues. On the floor, only 9 stone candle stands were placed. Wang Lin calmed his anxious mind and observed carefully for a long while, his brow gradually furrowing. Then suddenly, his gaze landed on the area surrounding the candle stands. Faint traces of movement could be seen around them, some deep, some shallow, clearly disturbed more than once, leaving behind many misleading signs. His eyes flickered as he crouched down to examine the marks more closely. Gradually, his eyes brightened. At the heart of the 9 candle stands, he detected a hint of sword chi. The sword chi seemed quite ordinary. Even if others sensed it, they would likely think someone had merely tried to damage the candle stands. But to Wang Lin, it meant much more. Senior Zhou Yi's sword chi. He must have passed through here into the third layer. But why leave sword chi behind here? Unless, Wang Lin's gaze sharpened. During his rapid journey, a trace of primordial energy had recovered within his body. Now, with a wave of his right hand, all 9 candle stands before him ignited in flame. The moment the fire lit up, it surrounded Wang Lin entirely, and in a flash, he vanished from sight, transported to the third layer. The positioning of the candle stands had only been a ruse. Even the marks on the ground were deliberate distractions, designed to draw the attention of those who came after. The true key was that the candle stands had to be lit. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, Wang Lin had spent 2 months inside the Immortal Emperor's cave dwelling. During this time, he only took brief moments to heal, spending the rest of his energy moving between layers. The deeper into the cave dwelling he ventured, the more powerful the restrictions became. Even with Wang Lin's mastery of sealing arts and the guidance of the map Jade Slip, it still took time to navigate them safely. What consumed even more time were the central palaces of each layer. Each one was a puzzle in itself, requiring intense effort to find the entrance to the next level. That alone would have been manageable, but from the 4th layer downward, the map Jade Slip mentioned that each layer contains several storage dimensions. Naturally, Wang Lin didn't want to miss any of them. Unfortunately, many of these places had already been looted. However, there were still a few untouched, and Wang Lin claimed everything in them, storing it all in his storage pouch. Thinking about the treasures he'd collected over the past 2 months filled him with excitement. Even he had been stunned by the contents of these storage dimensions. For instance, the amount of immortal jade he had now could sustain a sect for 1,000 years. There were countless other items as well. In Wang Lin's eyes, these storage dimensions were clearly caches left behind by immortal Emperor Qinglin, each one placed there with purpose. What Qinglin's true intentions had been, Wang Lin could not guess. But now, those items belonged to him, and that alone had kept him elated for several days. What excited him even more was a detail in the Jade Slip. The 6th layer contained 2 teleportation points leading to storage dimensions. One of them held a vast quantity of immortal elixirs from before the immortal world collapsed. To Wang Lin, these elixirs were more valuable than any magical artifact. Over the past 2 months, Wang Lin's cultivation had not fully recovered. While his injuries had mostly healed thanks to the ancient god's powerful regenerative abilities, his loss of primordial energy and the fatigue in his essence spirit, caused by wielding the iron sword, could not be restored without medicine. His current supply of elixirs was nearly exhausted. With danger lurking everywhere in this place, Wang Lin was determined to secure that storage point. On this particular day, a flash of light appeared at the edge of the 6th layer, and Wang Lin stepped out of it. He found himself surrounded by pavilions, as if in a secluded garden. Artificial mountains dotted the landscape, and a small river meandered from afar, its gentle gurgling echoing through the area, a calming, rejuvenating sound. So this is the 6th layer. Wang Lin took a deep breath and glanced around. Within moments, he aligned his location with the map jade's slip and pinpointed his exact position. Looking to the right, determination flashed in his eyes. In a blur, he darted off in that direction. I must get those elixirs. His speed was astonishing as he weaved through layer after layer of restrictions. But then, he abruptly halted, eyes locked on the path ahead. Someone's here. Since arriving at the second layer, Wang Lin had seen traces of others but hadn't encountered anyone directly. This was the first time he'd sensed someone below the second layer. Young man, to have made it this far. Impressive. A mildly surprised voice drifted from the shadows ahead. Behind him, the woman's gaze was gentle, yet there was also a hint of surprise. Clearly, she hadn't expected Wang Lin to have made it here. Upon seeing the Cloud Immortal couple, Wang Lin's expression remained calm, though inside, he was on high alert. His cultivation was still far from fully recovered, leaving him at his weakest here in the Immortal Emperor's mansion. One wrong move could easily result in death. He quietly took a step back, moving toward the edge of a nearby restriction. With a cupped fist, he said, "Greetings, Senior Cloud Immortal." As he spoke, his eyes casually swept behind the Cloud Immortal couple. Not seeing Zhou Yi's figure, a heavy feeling settled in his heart. Young brother's mastery of restriction techniques is truly profound. It seems I, Wang, underestimated you earlier, Wang Wei chuckled. His knowledge of Wang Lin was limited, and Zhou Yi hadn't mentioned a word about him. From Wang Wei's perspective, Wang Lin's ability to break through the restrictions and make it this far showed that his skills with restrictions were already at the peak. As for the injuries on Wang Lin's body, Wang Wei had naturally noticed them as well. The Cloud Immortal couple seemed quite mysterious in Wang Lin's eyes. When the Immortal Emperor's mansion first opened, everyone had entered together, and they should have all been absorbed into the Bottle Realm. However, until the Bottle Realm collapsed, these two hadn't appeared, and now, they were suddenly here. Not wanting to engage in too much conversation, especially with Zhou Yi not present, Wang Lin's thoughts turned suspicious. Given that his injuries hadn't healed yet, he calmly spoke while retreating. "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." With that, Wang Lin immediately took a large step back, intending to bypass them and head towards the place where the medicinal herbs and elixirs were stored. Wang Wei's smile remained unchanged, though he shook his head slightly, not stopping him. It wasn't until Wang Lin's figure disappeared behind a series of restrictions that he chuckled softly. This little fellow is quite interesting. His companion, Hu Wan, also smiled. Wang Lin is cautious by nature. I had hoped to speak with him more, but you scared him off. Wang Wei laughed heartily. He wasn't scared off by me. He simply has other places to go. Did you see how smoothly he entered the restrictions just now? Not a single pause. The restrictions didn't even trigger. This person either knows this place very well, or his mastery of restrictions has surpassed even my imagination. Hu Wan furrowed her brow slightly, watching where Wang Lin had disappeared. She murmured, at his age, I'd rather believe he knows this place extremely well. Wang Wei looked at her with a smile. Are you starting to feel some respect for him after watching him move through the restrictions so effortlessly? I agree with your assessment. He must know this place well. That only makes things more interesting. Hu Wan chuckled and covered her mouth, her eyes like crescent moons, very beautiful. What respect? You're just teasing me at this age. Wang Wei chuckled as well, a wise glint in his eyes. We suspected that the sword spirit would have companions, not that it came here alone. If I'm not mistaken, that companion must be him. Hu Wan paused, thought for a moment, then smiled. If you say so, then that's fine. If it's really like that, he's not our enemy. Based on the route he just took, if he truly knows this place, he's probably heading to the Immortal Emperor's storage of elixirs. Let's go take a look. The sword spirit should be there too. There must be some secrets between them. Wang Wei smiled and moved forward. Hu Wan looked at Wang Wei, her eyes soft. She trusted his analysis and calculations almost completely, so she raised her steps to walk alongside him. As Wang Lin retreated, he passed through one restriction after another. The restrictions on the 6th layer were even more complicated, so his speed was slightly affected. Some restrictions could be bypassed instantly, while others required careful analysis and calculation before he dared to proceed. After 7 days, Wang Lin completed a half-circle detour and neared the place where the elixirs were stored. According to the map Jade slip, this was an alchemy room with teleportation points leading to the storage area. Seeing the alchemy room in the distance, Wang Lin walked steadily toward it. As he walked, his divine sense spread around him, but he didn't release it too far. Instead, he focused on the nearby restrictions. Through the fluctuations of the restrictions, he could tell if anyone was near. The alchemy room wasn't large, and beside it was a herb garden. However, inside the garden were only withered branches and weeds. As Wang Lin approached, he was about to enter the garden when suddenly, his body came to a halt. He stared at the alchemy room ahead, feeling a subtle difference. The restrictions here didn't quite match the descriptions on the map Jade slip. Throughout the first 5 layers, the map Jade slip's descriptions had been completely accurate. Only here, there was a deviation, and the only explanation for this was that someone had tampered with the restrictions. The expression on Wang Lin's face gradually darkened. He looked around before pausing for a moment, his eyes flashing as he carefully analyzed the modified restriction. After a long while, he began to discern some clues, but the more he figured out, the tighter his brows furrowed. To him, the restriction outside the pill room was based on the original one, with a few additional modifications. However, what was strange was that these newly added elements had perfectly merged with the original restriction in a way that defied belief. Restrictive arts are ever-changing. Every practitioner of such arts, due to their personality, experiences, cultivation level, and understanding of restrictions, could create the same restriction, but no two would be identical in the eyes of an experienced observer. Therefore, the modified restriction in front of Wang Lin seemed almost unimaginable, challenging his understanding of restrictive arts. Such a perfect integration. Based on my understanding, and combined with the inheritance of the Annihilation Seal, there's no one in this world who could forcibly modify another's restrictions so flawlessly. Even if someone could, their skill in restrictive arts would have to be at an incredibly high level, to the point where they could change a beginner's restriction effortlessly. But this is the Immortal Emperor's Cave, the 6th layer of it. The restrictions here are already rare in the world. How could anyone alter them so perfectly? If there were such a person, then all the restrictions in the Immortal Emperor's Cave would be child's play to them, and moving through the 9 layers would be extremely easy. Wang Lin took a deep breath, shaken by this thought. Reluctantly, he resumed his inspection. The more he examined, the more unsettling it became. The restrictions surrounding the pill room could no longer be described as perfect. They were indistinguishable, as if the same person had returned at a different time to improve the restrictions they had previously set. Could it be? A sudden flash of inspiration struck Wang Lin's mind, and his eyes widened. Could the person who originally set all the restrictions in the Immortal Emperor's Cave be the same one who modified them here? He took another deep breath. This answer could explain everything, but it was too absurd to fully comprehend. Wang Lin stared at the restriction, vaguely feeling that if his guess was correct, he had uncovered a vast web, yet he had no idea who the weaver was. The first figure that flashed through Wang Lin's mind was the Cloud Immortal couple. After some consideration, Wang Lin could not give up. The pill in front of him was far too important. His gaze sharpened as he focused back on the restriction and began his calculations. The restrictions here were extremely complex, clearly designed to prevent outsiders from entering. Wang Lin crossed his legs and sat down. His eyes glinted with restrictive energy, and with a swift motion, he slapped his storage pouch, producing a compass. For 3 days, he sat there, his eyes slowly turning bloodshot. In his mind, the countless variations of the restriction flashed continuously as he searched for the correct way to break it. On the 4th day, Wang Lin lifted his head, bloodshot eyes glaring with focus. He stood up and took a step forward, stepping into the restriction outside the pill room without hesitation. As his foot landed, he did not stop but continued walking forward, taking 3 more steps. On the 5th step, hesitation appeared in his eyes. According to his calculations, this 5th step was the most difficult to solve. It seemed that no matter how he landed, it would be wrong. The 5th step. Wang Lin's gaze flickered, and after a long period of silence, a smile gradually appeared on his face. There is no 5th step. As he stepped forward, his 5th step seemed to land in the void, and he jumped, landing on the ground in front of him. This marked the 6th step. After landing, Wang Lin quickly surveyed the surroundings and, upon noticing no restriction being triggered, breathed a sigh of relief. His movements became fluid as he effortlessly moved through the space, and in no time, he had passed through the restrictions and appeared outside the pill room. Just as he was about to push open the door, his expression suddenly changed. His body abruptly retreated, and as he did so, the pill room door suddenly opened from within. A sword light shot toward him at lightning speed, but stopped when it saw Wang Lin. From the sword light came a soft exclamation. Then, the sword light dispersed, revealing a figure dressed in white, graceful and tall, like a jade tree in the wind. It was Zhou Yi. Wang Lin stopped his retreat upon recognizing Zhou Yi. His hand lowered the seal he had been forming, and he did not speak immediately. Instead, he glanced at the open door to the pill room. It felt as though the inside and outside of the room were two separate worlds, with divine sense unable to penetrate. This explained why Zhou Yi hadn't known Wang Lin was coming, and why Wang Lin hadn't sensed Zhou Yi earlier. "I knew you'd make it here," Zhou Yi said with a wistful smile, gazing at Wang Lin with a mix of nostalgia and a hint of sadness. In Wang Lin's eyes, Zhou Yi had changed greatly. What surprised him even more was the faint aura emanating from Zhou Yi, which was strikingly similar to the one he had felt during his encounter with the Void Nirvana artifact. Zhou Yi looked at Wang Lin, his expression filled with reassurance. He shook his head and said, "Between us, there's no need to call me senior. If you don't mind, just call me Brother Zhou." As he spoke, Zhou Yi's gaze suddenly sharpened, and he carefully observed Wang Lin. "Who caused such a severe injury to you? Your primordial spirit is faint and unclear, and your slow recovery has only worsened the hidden dangers." As he spoke, Zhou Yi's face darkened with a coldness. Wang Lin smiled bitterly and briefly recounted his encounter with Void Master, without mentioning the origin source, only speaking of the Vermilion Bird awakening. It wasn't that Wang Lin didn't trust Zhou Yi, but the matter of the origin source was far too important. "Void Master." Zhou Yi's eyes flickered with a cold gleam, and he looked at Wang Lin with a trace of guilt. "If it weren't for me sending Qing Shuang, he wouldn't have taken such risks." "Void Master, I will remember this." Zhou Yi nodded, not asking further, but the name Void Master was firmly etched in his mind. As Wang Lin had been injured because of delivering Qing Shuang, it was as if he had touched Zhou Yi's reverse scales. If given even the slightest opportunity, Zhou Yi's character would ensure Void Master paid a heavy price. "You've come here, surely for the pills stored in this place. While there are many, most were taken long ago by the Cloud Immortal couple. What remains is only effective for spirit bodies, as the storage method for these pills is complex, which is why the Cloud Immortal couple left them behind," Zhou Yi said, then quickly changed the topic. "But that's no problem. I'll find a way to get you the healing pills." With that, Zhou Yi's body flickered and turned into a sword ray, instantly passing through the prohibition outside the alchemy room. In midair, he formed a shadow and clasped his hands in front, calmly saying, "Senior Cloud Immortal couple, this person is an old friend of mine. Would you kindly appear and provide the pills?" A light laugh came from the distance. In the distant Purple Grove's prohibition, a flash of light appeared, and Wang Wei and Hu Wan stepped out. Their pace was not fast, but in 3 steps, they appeared outside the alchemy room. Wang Wei waved his right hand, and the prohibition outside the alchemy room vanished, as if it had never existed. Wang Lin's pupil shrank as he witnessed this scene. "I had suspected that Wang Xiao brother had some connection with this sword spirit, and it seems I was right," Wang Wei said with a smile. With a motion of his right hand, a void crack appeared ahead. 6 purple jade bottles immediately flew out and floated into Wang Wei's palm. These 6 bottles contained 5th-grade condensing immortal pills. "They may be useful to you," Wang Wei said, waving his hand, and the 6 bottles of pills flew in front of Wang Lin. Rich immortal aura radiated from the 6 purple jade bottles, and just inhaling the scent brought a refreshing feeling. Wang Lin clasped his hands and took the 6 jade bottles. After scanning them with his divine sense, he didn't immediately take them but instead placed them into his storage pouch. Hu Wan studied Wang Lin for a few moments before suddenly asking, "Are you the heir of the Annihilation Seal?" Wang Lin remained calm, looking at Hu Wan and replying quietly, "I'm not an heir, just someone who knows a little about it." Zhou Yi, noticing that Wang Wei only gave 6 condensing immortal pills, furrowed his brows. After a brief pause, he looked at Wang Wei and clasped his hands, saying, "Senior Wang Wei, this person is not only an old friend of mine, but he has also done me a great favor. I have never spoken of the matter from back then, but the truth is, I was once sealed here, and he saved me. If it weren't for him, I might never have met you, Senior." Wang Wei gave Zhou Yi a meaningful glance and raised his hand again, reaching into the crack. This time, 5 colorful jade bottles floated out. Holding the bottles, Wang Wei waved them towards Wang Lin. These bottles contain 5 Tsang Tian pills, a 4th-grade immortal pill. Taking them will significantly relieve your primordial spirit's injuries. Wang Lin took the pills, and upon scanning them with his divine sense, he immediately noticed the overwhelming immortal aura inside, far surpassing the previous 6 condensing immortal pills. Zhou Yi frowned again, clearly dissatisfied. Gritting his teeth, he no longer clasped his hands and said, "Since you know that I am the sword spirit of the Rain Immortal Sword, You must also be aware of Rain Immortal Lords Qing Shuang. Wang Wei's eyes immediately narrowed. Without asking further, he reached into the crack once more and pulled out 3 more bottles of pills, throwing them directly to Wang Lin without mentioning their effects. Wang Lin caught them, and upon scanning them with his divine sense, his expression changed. The immortal aura within these 3 bottles was even denser than the previous 5 colored bottles, clearly of higher quality. Back then, I became obsessed with a woman's corpse in the Rain Immortal realm, and I stored her in the Immortal Jade Pagoda, preserving her body so it wouldn't decay, allowing her to exist forever. Zhou Yi's eyes filled with reminiscence as he recounted the events that led to him obtaining Qing Shuang. Later, I discovered that she was not Tinger, but the Rain Immortal Lord, Qing Shuang. Wang Wei's expression changed. He had been worried about soul-searching potentially damaging Zhou Yi's spirit, which was why he had refrained from asking about it. But now, hearing Zhou Yi's story for the first time, waves of emotion stirred within him. Beside him, Huan's eyes showed a hint of excitement. The two exchanged a glance, and Wang Wei's right hand reached into the crack once more. This time, dozens of colorful medicine bottles flew out, all of which he tossed toward Wang Lin. Staring at Zhou Yi, Wang Wei said in a deep voice, "Continue." Wang Lin's expression was peculiar. He now understood that Zhou Yi's mention of the pills earlier had been an indirect way of asking him to find a solution. "I took Tingo to the Rain Immortal Realm one last time. There, we met Wang Lin." Zhou Yi's eyes became more nostalgic, as if he was completely immersed in the beautiful and unforgettable memories of that time. A wistful smile appeared on his face. As Zhou Yi spoke, scenes from the past and the Rain Immortal Realm slowly unfolded. Wang Lin listened quietly, his own memories stirred. Wang Wei and Huan were also drawn into these vivid memories. Especially when they heard that someone was attempting to seize Qing Shuang's corpse, Huan's gentle expression was immediately replaced with a murderous intent. Wang Wei's gaze turned cold as a powerful aura of pressure spread around them. "I was willing to burn everything for her. I have no regrets," Zhou Yi murmured. Even now, he felt no remorse for everything he had done. Upon hearing that Zhou Yi had burned his soul to protect Qing Shuang's corpse and, in the process, reached clarity of mind after breaking through to the next stage, Huan's gaze toward him softened with a trace of pity. Fateful karma. Wang Wei sighed inwardly. With his cultivation and experience, he could immediately tell whether Zhou Yi's words were true or false. As Zhou Yi spoke, the fragmentary soul inside Qing Shuang's body, awakened by his 1,000-year obsession, revived him, saving the dying Zhou Yi and allowing him to become the new Rain Sword spirit. These events from the past were now being recounted by Zhou Yi, and Wang Wei and Huan fell silent. After a long time, Wang Wei sighed deeply and bowed to Zhou Yi, clasping his fist in gratitude. He said with emotion, "Brother Zhou, your great kindness, on behalf of Qing Shuang, I thank you. If I have offended you in any way before, I hope you will not take it to heart." Beside him, Huan's expression also became sorrowful. She looked at Zhou Yi and bowed, saying, "The gratitude from Brother Zhou, my husband, and I will never forget." The two of them could easily tell what was true and what was false. Based on their previous suspicions, Zhou Yi's words showed no signs of being false, and they had no reason not to trust him. Moreover, Zhou Yi's identity as the Rain Sword spirit explained everything. "I assume that this young brother Wang Lin is here to deliver Qing Shuang's body," Wang Wei said, looking at Wang Lin. His eyes revealed admiration and appreciation. Reflecting on what little he knew about Wang Lin, he hadn't expected him to be such a person of principle. It seemed that the situation was finally clear, but Wang Lin did not immediately present Qing Shuang's body. Instead, he stepped back a few paces, looking at Wang Wei and Huan with a calm expression as he asked, "What exactly are your identities, senior?" Wang Wei, sensing the caution in Wang Lin's expression, actually felt a deeper appreciation. The more cautious Wang Lin was, the more it showed how much he cared about Zhou Yi's entrusted task. "All right, my identity. I have not shared it with anyone in countless years," Wang Wei said with a long sigh. He looked toward the center of the 6th layer of the Immortal Emperor's cave, where the black mist lingered, a trace of melancholy in his expression. "I am the first guard of Immortal Emperor Qing Lin," Wang Wei continued. "And I am also the second disciple of my master." As he spoke these words, an indescribable aura surged from his body, radiating a sense of overwhelming pride. In that moment, Wang Lin seemed to feel the majestic presence Wang Wei must have had in the immortal realm. "I am the 7th disciple of my master, and I grew up alongside Qing Shuang," who once said softly. "When the immortal realm faced its great calamity and collapsed, We were out on an errand and fortunately survived. Later, we learned that our master had not died but was gravely injured and in seclusion. We spent many years searching for him, and finally, we confirmed that he is in the celestial spirit heavenly realm. Wang Lin's heart shook, and he fell silent. Huan glanced at Wang Lin, raised her right hand, and waved it toward the nearby restriction. Immediately, the restriction around them began to change, becoming even more powerful than the previous one. You must have noticed the difference in the restriction outside the alchemy room. With your understanding of restrictions, you must have already made some guesses. After my master established this immortal emperor's cave, I personally arranged all of the structures and restrictions inside. Only then could the restrictions I added later perfectly blend into the system, Huan said, her voice soft but like thunder in Wang Lin's ears. Wang Lin gasped and chuckled bitterly. So it was you. I thought it was Senior Wang Wei. Wang Wei shook his head with a smile and said, my skill in restrictions is nowhere near hers. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost that bet with her over you. Wang Lin slapped his storage pouch, about to take out the immortal Jade Pagoda, but at that moment, Wang Wei's expression suddenly changed. He quickly turned his head to look into the distance. A sharp, eerie laugh echoed through the 6th layer at that instant. Beiluo. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. Such a fine disciple of Qin Lin, to have trapped this demon with restriction techniques. Beiluo, in just a few steps, closed the distance and immediately spotted Wang Lin, surprise flickering across his face. You actually made it this far. Beiluo's eyes glowed with a strange light. Wang Wei's eyes flashed with cold light. With a cold snort, he stepped forward, raised his right hand, and formed a seal with his fingers, pointing forward. Suddenly, a curtain of rain appeared out of nowhere, heading straight for Beiluo. Huan stepped into a nearby restriction, bit the tip of her right finger, and quickly drew a strange rune in the void. As soon as the rune appeared, it emitted a faint ethereal glow. At that moment, all the restrictions in the Immortal Emperor's cave, 6th layer, seemed to come alive. They all flashed simultaneously, as though triggered, emitting waves of ghostly light. From all directions, they swiftly rose into the air, heading straight for the ancient demon Beiluo. This scene was filled with the glowing light of restrictions. As Huan pointed with her right hand, all these restrictions gathered together. Beiluo pushed both hands outward, and immediately, a surge of demonic energy shot straight into the sky from his body, forming a demonic vortex that spread out. I have no desire to fight you too. If you wish to save Qin Lin, I seek the ancient demon Tower Tagia. While our goals are different, we can still find a way to cooperate. With your strength, you may not be able to break the seal on the ancient demon Tower Tagia, but with my help, the chances of success will be much greater. Beiluo's voice, coming from within the swirling demonic energy, was distorted, creating a strange sound that made one's body tremble upon hearing it. Wang Lin, already injured, turned pale at once. Without hesitation, he quickly took several medicinal pills, too anxious to refine them, and focused on the air above, circulating his primordial energy. How about my proposal? If we continue to fight, you won't be able to save the Immortal Emperor, and I won't be able to kill the ancient demon Tower Tagia. In the end, it will only benefit him. Beiluo's voice was filled with an eerie demonic tone. In fact, his actions were out of caution for Wang Wei and Huan. These two, working together, with Huan controlling all the restrictions here, had trapped Beiluo for months after he left the Immortal Burial Pool and encountered the Cloud Immortal couple in the 4th layer of the Immortal Emperor's cave. After a fierce battle, neither side had been able to kill the other. But because of Huan's presence, Beiluo had been trapped by the restrictions. This time, he was not here to continue the fight, but to seek cooperation. Huan's eyes flickered as she looked at Wang Wei. Wang Wei stared at Beiluo, and after a long while, the cold gleam in his eyes gradually faded. He waved his right hand, and the water curtain vanished. Calmly, he said, "Fine." Beiluo breathed a sigh of relief. His body swayed and landed on the ground, but he kept a safe distance from the Cloud Immortal couple. His gaze swept over and landed on Wang Lin. He laughed and said, "Brother Wang, I didn't expect your cultivation to have improved so much. But this injury of yours, if you don't heal it quickly, it will greatly affect your future cultivation. Well, since I'm here because of you, I wouldn't have come if it weren't for you. Though I don't have any healing elixirs, this injury was clearly inflicted by someone. If you tell me who did it, I'll kill him as repayment for your kindness." Wang Lin's expression was cold. With his intelligence, how could he not detect the provocation and testing in Beiluo's words? Beiluo was clearly astonished that Wang Lin had made it here and seemed unaware of Wang Lin's relationship with the Cloud Immortal couple. Wang Lin smiled slightly, cupped his fists, and said, "Then I thank the ancient demon lord. If I see the person who injured me, I will certainly point him out." At that time, "Ancient demon lord, please don't go back on your word." Beiluo's eyes flickered, and he laughed heartily, not bringing up the matter again. Naturally, it was not the right time to take out Qing Shuang's body. Wang Wei placed his right hand inside his robe and took out a green wax-covered pill. A hint of nostalgia appeared in his eyes as he handed it to Wang Lin. "This is the Qing Dan that my master gave me back then. No matter your cultivation or primordial energy, as long as it's related to the energies of this world, taking this pill will instantly heal any injuries. I don't have many left, but you can choose to take it now or save it for a future crisis." As he spoke, Wang Wei shot a cold glance at Beiluo. He had not only a few, but only 3 left, 1 with Hu Wan and 2 with himself. The moment Beiluo saw the green wax pill, his eyes revealed a greedy glint. He was extremely familiar with this Qing Dan. Back when he and the ancient demon had ambushed Qing Lin's strange injuries had made the pill's effects less significant, but it still helped somewhat. This created tremendous resistance for the ancient demons and ancient fiends, and was ultimately a key reason for the ancient fiend's failure. He's willing to give away such a pill. That means his relationship with Wang Lin is incredibly close. It also suggests that he and the Cloud Immortal couple may still have a few more of these pills. Though we can't be sure, if it really comes to a fight, that could be troublesome. Beiluo withdrew his gaze from the pill. Holding the pill, Wang Lin didn't take it immediately. Instead, he placed it in his storage pouch and, under Hu Wan's guidance, the group headed straight for the center of the 6th layer, where the black mist loomed. Zhou Yi remained floating beside Wang Lin. At this moment, Wang Lin was extremely weak and needed protection. Naturally, Zhou Yi wouldn't leave his side. Soon, they approached the central black mist. Beiluo stared at it, eyes filled with hatred. If he hadn't failed back then, ancient demon Taijia would never have seized the upper hand. Still, maybe that's for the best. Qing Lin is no easy foe. Taijia probably hasn't succeeded even now. Otherwise, he'd have left long ago. As they stepped into the palace within the black mist, Wang Lin immediately spotted a massive stone stele on the ground. It stood about 20 feet tall, entirely blank except for a single palm print embedded in it. "The final 3 levels are the secluded chambers of my master. I don't know if anything inside has changed. To move more freely, it's best if we wait for more people to arrive. Wang Lin, you should focus on healing for now. That way, once we enter the last 3 layers, you'll at least have the power to protect yourself," Wang Wei said calmly, glancing briefly at Beiluo in the distance. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed slightly. He still couldn't quite read the Cloud Immortal couple. Even now, they weren't rushing to enter, but instead were choosing to wait for others to arrive. Beiluo, the ancient fiend, didn't question it either, as if he shared the same intention. "Don't think too much. Focus on healing. I've known from the beginning that those 2 are unpredictable, but they won't harm us." Zhou Yi's voice echoed directly into Wang Lin's mind through the unique means of the sword spirit. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. He lowered his head and sat cross-legged. Rather than taking the verdant wax pill, he pulled out several other medicinal items he'd obtained earlier. After examining them closely, he swallowed them one by one and closed his eyes to begin healing. Though he was healing, his divine sense remained active. It slowed the healing process a bit, but under these circumstances, it was necessary. Time passed slowly. 7 days went by in the blink of an eye. During that time, Wang Wei and Hu Wan had already taken seats in meditation. Beiluo, too, remained seated. Wang Lin let out a deep breath. His injuries had recovered slightly, but hidden dangers still remained. Fortunately, he had enough medicine. He pulled out more pills, examined them, and swallowed them. Yet his divine sense never receded and stayed locked onto the entrance, waiting for the arrival of the Void Master. In Wang Lin's estimation, the trio of the Void Master should be the first to arrive at the 6th layer Grand Hall. Time within the hall felt eternal, eroding the sense of its passage. With the aid of the medicine, Wang Lin's injuries gradually improved. By now, it was the 27th day since they had begun waiting inside the hall. Around midday, Wang Wei and Hu Wan suddenly opened their eyes almost at the same time, turning toward the entrance. Beiluo was even faster, his gaze already fixed there. A ripple touched Wang Lin's divine sense. He opened his eyes, a strange glow flickering within them, and looked toward the entrance. At the doorway, a woman slowly walked in. Her entire body was surrounded by countless snowflakes, swirling and dancing gracefully around her, creating a dazzling sight. "It's her." Wang Lin looked away. The first person to enter the sixth-layer Grand Hall was not one of the Void Masters trio, but rather that pink-clad woman suspected to be the Kungsa Holy Maiden. Her expression was calm. As she stepped inside, her beautiful eyes swept across the room, lingering briefly on Wang Lin. She said nothing and simply sat cross-legged in a corner. Less than half a stick of incense later, Wang Lin's divine sense rippled once more. Looking out, he saw 3 figures appear in the hall. The Void Master, the rustic beauty, and the man in black. The moment they entered, all eyes in the hall turned to them. The Void Master immediately locked onto Wang Lin, his eyes erupting with murderous fury. At that very instant, Wang Lin met his gaze, his own eyes flashing coldly as he calmly said, "Ancient fiend, that's the one who injured me." As soon as Wang Lin spoke, Wang Wei and Huan snapped their eyes toward the Void Master. Even Beilua looked over, half smiling. Zhou Yi's eyes glinted with killing intent as he silently drifted forward a few steps, shortening the distance between himself and the Void Master. He was just waiting. One opportunity was all he needed to unleash the terrifying might of his newly mastered indestructible spiritual sense and avenge Wang Lin. The sudden turn of events made Void Master gasp in shock, cold sweat instantly beading on his forehead, his heart pounding faster and faster. He never imagined that after just a few months of absence, Wang Lin had somehow managed to make these people act on his behalf. The Cloud Immortal couple, along with the strange bald man. These 3 gave him the feeling that even at his peak, he would have to tread carefully around them. What's more, he was now gravely injured, with his essence spirit having suffered a loss of half its power, causing his cultivation to plummet from great perfection to mid-shattered nirvana. Not daring to move a single muscle, let alone retreat, he knew that he was now the focus of everyone in the Grand Hall. Any wrong move could result in a lightning-fast strike from them all. Esteemed friends, I am Void Master of the Cultivation Alliance's Alliance Star Domain, and this is my senior, Zhong Xuanzi, First Elder of the Alliance. May I ask, what is the meaning of this? Void Master managed to calm himself, even going so far as to invoke the Cultivation Alliance, an act he rarely resorted to.